It's time to rank all the episodes of Twisted Metal's first season. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the Movie Ranker, and today I'm ranking a TV series. We're doing Twisted Metal Season 1, all 10 episodes. Going to be ranking them from worst to best. I quite enjoyed this TV series, the first season anyway. I'm excited to check out Season 2. They're already started it. They're already a couple episodes in. Can't wait to catch up on that. I was a big fan of the video games when they came out. Particularly the first two video games on PlayStation 1. I played the shit out of those as a kid. So yeah, there's definitely some nostalgia for this gaming franchise. How did they do in making this a TV series? Well, we're going to get into that. I'll give you my full thoughts on the whole season at the end of the video after my ranking. And I'd love to hear how you guys rank these episodes. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? Drop them down in the comment section. We'll have a great discussion. And without wasting any more time, let's rank them. Kicking things off in last place at number 10, I'm going with episode 9, Roadkill. Kind of a filler episode. Not a whole lot happens. It's kind of just setting you up for the final episode. Quiet goes on an adventure on her own after she believes John is dead. She gets stopped, crashes her car and gets stopped by a vulture. They have quite the conversation. He's not your typical vulture. They're kind of just having a chat and that, and then he's like, okay, now I have to rob you and whatnot. Luckily, John does show up. He wasn't dead. He shows up with the convoy that he radioed. We meet them earlier in the season, and basically the convoy just gives them back weapons, gives them a new ride because they lost Evelyn, their car, in the last episode. And yeah, they're just kind of setting up for this big battle in the final episode. The convoy does get attacked by the lawmen. You don't actually see them. You just see like bullet holes go through. And then they make it to an ambush. That's how the episode ends, with this like parking lot with all these vacant cars everywhere. But there's really people hiding in them, the lawmen. And they basically get ambushed, this convoy. And it kind of sets up for this big battle. Leaves you on a cliffhanger. Definitely gets you interested in watching the final episode of the season. It's not necessarily a bad episode. Like I said, it's just not a whole lot happens aside from them, getting a new ride, which is Roadkill. That's their new car. So yeah, not a whole lot happens in this episode. So this one was easily my least favorite of the season, but it's still, I wouldn't consider it a bad episode or anything. It's just that a lot of this episode is mostly John and Quiet arguing over what had happened in the last episode. You know how John was so in love with this car, Evelyn, and he would rather save the car than to take off with Quiet. And this really bothered Quiet, how much of a bond he had with his car. It felt like he cared more about the car than her. So yeah, they're trying to get over this little argument, throughout this episode, which eventually they do get over it right before that big ambush at the end. So this one comes in last place. Up next at number 9, we got episode 4, Who's There? Which is a reference to a knock-knock joke that we hear in the episode. And this one, yeah, it's an okay episode. They get picked up by this convoy. And it's pretty cool. They all have these like semi-tractor trailers and that are all like kind of attached to each other. They can like pull up beside each other and you can cross over. And they have like their own markets and everything. And it's run by this old horny granny. And she has a mission for John to go get medicine for her. And if he completes this mission and brings it back to her, then they'll provide them with attachments and guns for their vehicle. So yeah, the episodes is basically them getting the medicine and then coming back. But when they go get the medicine lady, the pharmacist or whatever, I think her name was Amber, she doesn't trust these two. She believes that they're holy men undercover or whatnot. So she drugs them and like paralyzes them and that until she can find out who they really are. And then eventually she realizes they are actually just there for Granny. And once they get back, they give her the medicine, and you realize that she was not going to survive either way. She is suffering from something, and she's going to die for sure, but this medicine will ease the pain and let her passing be easier. So like I said, not much of an episode. They do acquire a book from her with all these like sex positions and stuff, which comes back later in the season. There's this nice moment where on their way back with the medicine, they're hiding from a gang and they end up in an old movie theater. And this is like one of the first times you really get to see Quiet and John kind of form this bond and kind of let loose, and laugh together and just have fun at this movie while they're like dubbing the voices and that. And it brings back memories of Quiet and her brother when they were younger. So definitely a good episode. It's just this season has actually a lot of episodes and they're really hard to rank, so this one just happens to place in second last place. Up next at number 8, I'm going with episode 6, Drive-Thru. Now this is probably the slowest episode in the season due to a storm happening and they can't advance the story, right? So they're trapped in this old burger joint, which brings back a lot of memories for Quiet, as a lot of incidents happen there. Her brother actually worked there. They lived in this weird city where like they had slaves kind of, and they wore like ears and different body parts as necklaces and stuff. So we learn a lot more about Quiet's backstory, especially her bond that she had with her brother. You really start to understand why she had this really close connection with her brother as he worked there and everything. And it shows flashback scenes of them meeting up at the restaurant and causing a bunch of trouble and whatnot. And really the episode's about not only her reflecting on her past and her brother, but being able to move on from that and get over it, because, it's something really hard to get over, losing a family member like that. But she just keeps dreading on the past and, won't move on. And by the end of this episode, she finally lets go and is able to move on. She's not running away, going for revenge nonstop. At the very end, you think that she ran off from John one last time, but no, she's actually out there waiting for him, which is nice. First time we get to see that, because she's always taken off from John. The first time they actually get intimate with each other in a ball pit. It happens multiple times in this episode. They're learning from Granny's sex book, her positions book, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it's just a slower episode, but it's needed. It has the most character development up to this point. And this is episode 6. So we kind of needed that. The episode takes time out of their action and that. You really learn a lot more about Quiet and John too and everything. So like I said, a needed episode, but not the most exciting or interesting out of the season 1. Coming up next at number 7, I'm going with episode 1, Will You Drive? Now, being the first episode, I think this does a good job at setting up the world, giving you the rules and everything. How we have these milkmen, I should say, like our main character John, who is basically a delivery guy. He delivers to each city, from one city to the next. But it's super dangerous because it's very apocalyptic out in the wasteland, after the fall. And yeah, there's all these gangs and whatnot. So you really understand the world pretty well, even after this first episode. And he ends up getting this job from the girl who runs San Francisco, played by Neve Campbell, which is pretty cool. I just wish we would have got to see more of her in this show, because I knew she was in it, but she's barely in this show. Maybe she'll make more of an appearance in season 2. We will see. But yeah, she got a job for him to go to New Chicago and pick up a package and bring it back, which is incredibly dangerous. And this guy has never left California, I believe, or never left the West Coast. So it's quite the job for him. Now, like I said, the world and everything's set up really nicely, and he has to pass through Las Vegas by the end, and the great cliffhanger with Sweet Tooth showing up, It also lets you know about the lawmen. We get introduced to them in this first episode and their leader, Agent Stone. And right away, he has a run-in with Quiet and her brother, and he kills her brother right away in the first episode. So they're not people to be messed with. They're very bad people, They make for great villains, these cops. And yeah, you got to see his card, like the missile on the top is pretty damn cool. I don't know if it's just because this was the first episode I got to watch, but I just found this episode does have some cheesy humor into it, more than the other episodes, I feel. Like with the parallel parking scene with him in the mall drifting around when people shooting at him and stuff. I'm just like, it kind of made me skeptical for the rest of the season, just for the humor. But I feel like the rest of the season does a good job at handling the humor. This one was a little off, I admit, in the first episode. Perhaps I need to rewatch it. Perhaps I just wasn't used to this world yet. But I do remember finding the humor a little cheesy at times. But for a first episode, they do a great job with the world building. And I love how, the little things matter in this show. Like, he gets a new windshield wiper and he's like all like excited, you know, and like giving another guy who has the maps like a pack of crayons, like wax crayons and that. And they're like, everybody loves the little things because, like you said, they're in like an apocalyptic world at this point. So there's a lot of these things are hard to come by that was out in the 90s and the early 2000s, right when the fall happened. Up next at number 6, I got episode 3 and the Law Won. This episode, John and Quiet get captured by the lawmen. It's funny, they get like interrogated and questioned and tortured with the Barbie song. That's another thing that this show does so well. The soundtrack is fantastic. Every episode has these great songs, and they're usually like late 90s, early 2000 tracks, which is very nostalgia to me when I grew up. So that's a whole lot of fun. And their 2 new recruits, which they got in the last episode, Stu and Mike. One, they were friends, but one is taking to the lawmen much better than the other one. Mike is actually enjoying like doing evil things and like messing with people as a cop, where Stu is a much better person. His morals come into play, and you know, he doesn't like being a lawman, even if it means he'll survive, you know. So by the end of this episode, he tries breaking out John and Quiet, I should say, and get their car back and everything for them. Unfortunately, Stu gets left behind. You feel so bad for the guy. And you're like, screw Mike. I mean, multiple times throughout this season, Mike is just such a dick. And yeah, he does redeem himself later, but in this episode, I hated Mike. We also learn a backstory on Stone, Agent Stone, how he got to be the man he is today, how he became the hero of his town. You know, he got in an altercation with locals during the starting of the fall over food and that, and you know, he took the law into his own hands basically, and then eventually created this whole crew who takes the law in their own hands in the wasteland. So very interesting to find out how he became the way he is. And yeah, he is a crazy son of a bitch, let me tell you. So yeah, by the end of this episode, John and Quiet may have gotten away, but they lose all their weapons and that on their vehicle. They get stripped, and Stu gets left behind, which is unfortunate, but pretty good episode regardless. Up next at number 5, I'm going with episode 2, 3 Ring Circus. This is the first episode where we get to meet Sweet Tooth for the first time. He was in the cliffhanger of episode 1 at the very end, but yeah, we get to meet him in his base in Las Vegas. He's very psychotic, like weird, bizarre, foolish, kind of childish, but demented and violent. And he makes for a lot of comedy scenes in this series, let me tell you. When John and Quiet are with him and he's like singing the thong song and everything. It's just hilarious, man. And he puts on a show for them, which just bores the hell out of them and is just completely annoying. But they act like they're fans, and he decides not to kill them at the end. They convince him to take his show on the road and go try to get more followers and whatnot. And he's voiced by Will Arnett, which is really weird because he's played by a wrestler. I have his name here, Samoa Joe, which I haven't been in the wrestling since like 2001, so I don't know the guy. But it is interesting. It threw me off a bit hearing Will Arnett's voice on him, but since he's wearing a mask and that, it's not so bad. And over a few episodes, I got used to it, and yeah, I really enjoy his character. We also get to see Agent Stone recruiting his 2 new cops in this one, Mike and Stu. And you really get to see that Stu is not like Mike. Like right away, they get them to shoot these vagrants coming for a car, these survivors. And right away, Mike's ready to do it. And he's telling Stu, you better do it. Because he's always in survival mode, right? And he's willing to do bad things if it's going to keep him alive and, you know, put a roof over his head. But Mike is too good of a person, and you know, he won't shoot. And right away, you know that Mike's a good guy, and I'm rooting for him this entire season. And by the end of this episode, both the stories kind of meet at the end, with Quiet and John getting tased by the lawmen and taken in, and we were following them with Mike and Stu. So it's kind of nice that everything comes together by the end of this episode. Reaching my top 4, now this is where it became really difficult. I really love these top 4 episodes. I had a really hard time to place them, but I had to do something. So here it is. At number 4, I'm going with episode 5, Crossroads. Now, this is the episode where they reach Topeka. They're right outside of the town where they were heading the whole time. John was bringing Quiet there, and Quiet ends up drugging John so she can go in on her own. This is a personal mission. It's for revenge. Topeka's actually like the main headquarters for all the cops, which we didn't know up until this point. And it's crazy that she's in there and they're surrounding her, right? And the danger she's in is crazy. And at the same time, she's hallucinating. Her mental state is deteriorating. She keeps talking and having conversations with her dead brother, which isn't there. She's just seeing him. And her hallucinations are even telling her that she's crazy because you're talking to a ghost, basically. You're talking to nobody. It's all in your head. So you really get to see the damage that was done mentally to her after losing her brother. We end up with this really awesome battle, a little short-lived, but it is pretty cool, with Quiet versus Agent Stone, one-on-one, and there's missiles and stuff in the town. It's pretty awesome. John shows up last minute to save the day, rockets Agent Stone, and gets Quiet out of there before she ends up dead, right? Love that part of the episode, but I actually prefer the other story going on involving Sweet Tooth. He makes it to one of the lawmen's outposts where they have Stu incarcerated, ready to kill him, basically, make him walk off the cliff. And Sweet Tooth comes in, saves the day, kills all the cops. He's like dismembering them and putting body parts on them and stuff. It is hilarious. And this is where I really start to warm up to Sweet Tooth even more. He's such a great character. He adds in so much entertainment into this season, let me tell you. And he forms a bond with Stu, which is great to see because Stu had the shitty end of the stick this whole season, let me tell you. Even though Sweet Tooth is very psychotic and can snap and kill Stu at any time, it is nice to see him form that friendship with him. The S brothers. And he also acquires a whole following, all the other people he saved at the lawman's outpost. So he's getting a crew together, even though he's like, you guys can't travel with me. You're going to have to drive yourselves. I don't have enough room in my clown car. I know, it's just so fun. Up next at number 3, I'm going with episode 7, NUTHOUZ. They finally reach New Chicago in this episode, get their package from Calypso, which we don't get to see. But on their way back, they stop in at a milkman outpost, and they run into John's ex and a lot of other people he used to work with, you know, doing milkman stuff, right? And his ex is really jealous of Quiet because he sees that John is much more in love with her than he ever was with his ex, right? And how he lets her in the car and go for drives with him and everything. Not something he ever let his ex do. So you definitely see that she's really jealous. And it's just a really cool outpost. You get the, again, building on the world and everything. The guy working the bar has like this big dong and he smashes watermelons with it. It's kind of funny. Yeah, and eventually they find out about what his prize will be, his reward once he delivers the package, how he'll be a citizen of New San Francisco and get to live there. And they all become jealous of that, and they all turn on him, try to kill him, take his package to deliver it themselves, but it doesn't quite work out, and it ends up quite messy. But yeah, it is a really fun little side story in this season. We also get to learn about Sweet Tooth's backstory, how he killed his co-star, which was a dog, as a kid when he was on like this TV series. Was jealous of the dog getting all the attention and everything, and that's really where he got set off and started being this psycho, right? And they end up going to the asylum that he was put into. He shows Stu his parents, his dead parents, which he trapped in the room that he was left in, and now they're just like rotted corpses. It's just so messed up. It really shows Sweet Tooth's mental state and how he's just completely insane. And, you know, and Stu's starting to see it too at this point. I didn't mention before, but he has like a brown paper bag named Harold, which is like Sweet Tooth's best friend. And it's so funny when they go into the asylum, he leaves Harold with the gun. And when he comes out, all of his followers are dead because the lawmen shot them. And he blames Harold. He's like, Harold, you shot them all. It's just so hilarious. The lawmen show up, right? And Mike does another dick move by shooting at Stu. You know, it's supposed to be his friend since a childhood, and he's shooting at him just to be on the lawman's side. It's terrible, and Stu ain't having it. But Stu, being the better guy, keeps Mike alive convinces Sweet Tooth to keep him as a pet, basically. So Stu, my man, did it again. Coming in at number 2, we have the season finale, episode 10, Shangri-La. Of course, your season finale is going to be a big episode. I debated at putting this in first place, but I just love one episode a little bit more. But yeah, you get this big battle. At the end of episode 9, there was this huge ambush. Everybody's there with their vehicles and their weapons, and you know it's going to be badass. And this episode kicks right off with this huge battle. Basically, Agent Stone and his crew versus everyone else. We got one from the convoy. She becomes like the Vortex, I think she was called. And she like go faster than missiles and stuff. We got Sweet Tooth showing up with Mike and Stu, which is really awesome. He like catches his hair on fire just like in the video games. And Mike finally redeems himself for the first time ever. I was like, kill him, kill him, kill him the whole season. But then he finally does something good and saves Stu. And I'm like, finally, about time. He finally comes to his senses. And he also convinces Stu to come to his senses and don't hang out with Sweet Tooth. He's not your friend. He's a psycho. And they end up shooting Sweet Tooth in the eye and everything. It's unclear if he survived or not. I think he's back in season 2. So I think he survived. But kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger at the end of this one, not knowing how he made it. His mask falls off and everything. And like I said, getting shot in the face. But yeah, it is nice seeing Mike and Stu back together and just Mike smartening up. And they use the car Roadkill to flip Agent Stone. Then Agent Stone gets the better of Quiet, has a chance to kill her, but like all bad villains, not that he's a bad villain, but all bad villains give this long speech, gives them time, the victims time to fight back or get away or whatnot. And that's what happens here. Gives him time for John to shoot a hatchet at his face, and it actually sticks in, which is a callback throughout the season because John could never shoot hatchets good. It would never stick in. He was terrible at it, but for once he finally gets it, and it's right in his face. Pretty badass. And Quiet has her opportunity to get revenge on Agent Stone, but she finally realizes to be the better person, gives Stone the gun and says, kill yourself if you want. I'm out of here. I'm washing my hands of the situation, which is the same thing that Agent Stone did to them, gave them a decision, even though his decision was way worse when her brother died. But yeah, it was just a lot of foreshadowing in the past and callbacks and that came back, and it was a satisfying final episode, have the callbacks with the hatchet and with the gun and all these different things. And we also get back to New San Francisco where John can deliver the package to Raven. And yeah, obviously she won't let Quiet in, which is what I kind of figured. And John gets in the city. He's living the good life. Raven's really manipulating John's life in the city. Everybody's basically just acting to be like John's friend and giving him everything. He's getting a date with a girl and everything. He got to try pizza for the first time. Living the perfect life, basically. But it's just not the same without Quiet. So he decides he wants to leave the city. But Raven ain't having it. She's manipulating him even more and showing him his childhood home. Don't know if it actually is or not. It's hard to say because John doesn't have any memories of when he was a kid. But it's still hard to keep John there. And then she comes right out. I'm using you. You're going to be my driver for this huge tournament that's going to be put on, which, of course, will be season 2. Leaves you on a huge like cliffhanger note again. You're like, what? That's pretty crazy. And on the other hand, you got Quiet going around robbing all the milkmen, taking half of their shit and giving it to the people. You know, she found a new calling. Instead of going after revenge, she has a new purpose in life. And it's just a great way to wrap up the season, in my opinion. And it basically ends with Quiet getting ambushed by these group of people in white masks, and one of them claims to be John's sister. Pretty big cliffhanger, especially since John has no memories of his family or nothing, so pretty damn crazy. Like I said, debated on putting this one in first place in my ranking, but there is one episode I prefer, so it is what it is, but really good episode. But for me, coming in the first place is episode 8, called Evelyn, which was the name of John's car. He had a huge bond with this car. They were inseparable, but at the starting of this episode, it gets stolen from him, from the Holy Men take it back to their base. So John and Quiet has to disguise themselves as these Holy Men and enter their compound. And it is just so hilarious. You find out their leader is played by Jason Mantzoukas. Love him. I can't help but think of Rafi every time I see him from The League. And he's kind of playing that same character. Very wild, very out there. I mean, all these characters are wearing like leather and gimp suits and stuff. And they're like putting drugs in their drinks. And they're just all really fucked up. They got like these women are goddesses to them. And they're like whipping the guys and stuff. It's just a really interesting group of individuals, let me tell you. And yeah. Jason Mantzoukas leading them all is just the cherry on top. One of the funnier episodes in here, when Quiet is like, "You're grinding your teeth. I can hear it from here." And John's like, "That's you." And she's like, it's just so funny because they're all drugged up too in that. And yeah, they're really trying to get Evelyn back. John does something really stupid, confronts them all, says he wants the car. He's willing to fight their leader for it. You get this hilarious scene. This one guy in the back gets real quiet. He's like, "That guy's fucked," or something like that. It's just so funny, man. Love this episode. And the way it ends with him losing his car in an explosion. And it's actually very emotional, very hard hitting. Because we get flashbacks throughout this episode showing John as a kid. It shows how he found Evelyn, how Evelyn basically became his protector, his shelter. It really made him survive as a kid in this crazy world. So you really realize why it's so important to him, why it's like his girlfriend basically, and yeah, how important Evelyn really is to him, and why he doesn't want this leader guy to essentially screw his car in the tailpipe. That's what he wanted to do. He wasn't having that. So that's why this big fight happened and everything. And yeah, that flashback was so needed of him as a kid and him showing how close he was to the car, because at the end when the car explodes, you get him being so sad over it, right? It's like he lost his best friend. And you get this really nice scene with Evanescence playing with the song My Immortal, one of the saddest songs of all time. And it works so well in this scene. It's funny, but it's also kind of sad and kind of hits you in the emotions. You're like, you feel for John and his car. And all in all, while this is happening, Quiet is farther away and she sees the explosion and figures John is dead. So it's as if she lost another person in her life after just losing her brother. So a very important episode. While it's funny and super entertaining, it holds a lot of emotion and it just makes you understand the relationship between John and his car. And like I said, I just found this episode so funny, especially with the Holy Man, how they're like gifting weapons and drugs. And that's like, you guys got to come up with better stuff. It's always the same stuff. It's just so funny, man. So funny. So I really loved Evelyn. I think it's the best episode on the season for me personally, but I think Jason Mantzoukas has a lot to do with that too. So it is what it is, but this one is my favorite in the season. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 10 episodes of season 1 of Twisted Metal. Hope you enjoyed it. I don't think there's any rankings of Twisted Metal episodes online. This may be the first. I don't know. I haven't seen any, so I thought I would do this. And I never ranked a whole lot of TV series on my channel. It was mostly always movies. I have done the first 2 seasons of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I will continue with that eventually. But yeah, I want to get more into TV series as well on the channel. We'll see how you guys react to this. Like I said, drop your favorite episodes down in the comment section. Your favorite, your least favorite. Would love to hear it. Did you enjoy season 1 of Twisted Metal? Because I thoroughly did. I don't think there's any bad episodes on here. Even my least favorite in this ranking is still worth a watch. It was still fun. I thought the soundtrack was really good to this show and how it played a lot of late 90s, early 2000s songs, which again is very nostalgic to me. And yeah, it just really worked with the show. I love the world building. I love all the characters, whether we're talking about the villains or the good guys. I think the cast was fantastic. Anthony Mackie or McKay, however you say it, I think he does a great job in here. Not a big fan of him as Captain America, but he is great in this show. We also get Stephanie Beatrice in here, which I know from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and she's so different in this show, right? Even her voice sounds so different, so it's interesting seeing her in here, and she does a great job. Like I said, you had that wrestler in here. What's his name? Samoa Joe. I don't know him personally, but he does a great job as Sweet Tooth, and Will Arnett voicing him is pretty cool. Nev Campbell is always awesome to see, being a big Scream fan, and she's not in a whole lot of stuff nowadays, so cool to see her in here. And I think Thomas Hayden Church is fantastic as the Agent Stone, as the head lawman. Lawman. I think he's fantastic. I love him in everything, man. All the way back from when I was a kid seeing him in George of the Jungle, and I thought he was such a dickhead in that, but he played it so well, and he does the same in here. So I really loved the first season of Twisted Metal. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10 or so, and I'm really excited to check out season 2 now that it's starting to drop. We got some new episodes out, and I heard that they already signed up for season 3, which is really awesome to see. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. There's my overall thoughts on season 1, and there's my ranking and whatnot. Like I said, if you guys enjoy this, maybe I'll return with more TV series. So that's it for today, though. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time, thanks for watching.